There are colleges which are way above your profile. There are colleges which are way beyond your profile. I remember in my case, I reached out to a lot of people even before applying. If it worked for them, it should work for you.
Like, what is the secret? Like getting a TA-ship as well, scholarship as well, getting good colleges as well.
I think I can talk a lot about it, but I'll first tell you what worked in my case.
Can you also give some tips about building a good CV or writing a good SOP and essay?
I took around 1.5 months to just work on the SOP. And mine, when I say 1.5 months, I used to sit every day to for 3 to 4 hours. Just
Is it true that the image which the Indian student have regarding US is it actually true?
so I'm going to make certain comments, and I don't know how the people are going to take it, but I'm still going to make them.
Hello everyone, welcome to Study Abroad Charcha brought to you by Uniflik. I'm your host Rohan Sonavne, an alumni of IIT Bombay. So you might be wondering, what is this podcast all about? It's simple, to connect with Indian students who have ventured abroad and hear their stories firsthand. So our aim is to help you guys navigate the journey to studying in international colleges. So let's dive in and uncover the path of your dreams together. Today we have our first international student, Nancy Tyagi, a graduate student at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. She is from India and studied computer science from NIT Nagaland. Nancy worked at Capgemini and Aviasu AI before heading to the US for her masters. Well, what's impressive about her? Nancy managed to move abroad all by herself without any outside help. She is now fully funded for her studies and works as a teaching assistant researcher. Join us on our first episode of Study Abroad Charcha to hear Nancy's inspiring story of making it on her own in a new country. Before we dive into the enlightening podcast, I want to extend a warm invitation to join our Uniflik community, which is India's premier hub for study abroad aspirants. So, whether you are having some questions or just contemplating the idea of studying abroad, Uniflik is your go to know destination for all the answers and support. Join our vibrant WhatsApp and Discord communities today. Links are there in the description below. Now, let's get started. Hi, Nancy, and welcome to our first podcast. How are you doing?
Hey Rohan, first of all, I would say thanks for inviting me. I am really honored to be here and have this conversation with you. And I'm doing really well. How about you?
Yes, me too. It's really like I'm hoping forward to have a great session with you, a great source of information for the students which will be viewing this podcast. Right. So, how about you give a brief about your introduction? Like, where have you studied? Where have you worked in India and all those things?
Sure, Rohan, I would love to. So, if I would, if I would just give a brief introduction about myself, I think I'll just start from my undergrad. I completed my undergraduate studies in computer science and engineering in 2020 from NIT Nagaland. After that, I worked in the industry for around 1.5 years. I did both a service based and a product based industry. And approximately 2 years after my undergrad, I came here in the US. And after I got admitted at UMBC, and when I came here, I was a full teaching assistant. So that's a little bit about my background.
So yeah, great. So, what was your basically the journey or the thought process?
Right.
Basically, I'm asking about. Yeah.
So, Rohan, if I'm very honest with you,
Hmm.
my sister, like my cousin sister,
Hmm.
she went to the US in 2016, the same time I came I came to my undergrad college. Ever since I was so inspired by her that I also wish to move forward to the United States. But that was just an inspiration. That time I did not make any real concrete there was nothing in my head that I have to go. So when I started my journey in my undergrad college, there were a lot of events. I was really inspired by machine learning and artificial intelligence. And I think it started with my first internship at IIT BHU. So I just, I mean, there was a project, if I remember, it was a facial recognition one. That project made me to deep dive more into what ML is and what are the kind of research projects people do, because that sounds really fascinating to me. And when I came to my third year, I did a little more personal projects. I After that I went ahead and you know worked with NIC for some time on an ML based project. Then of course I think that also led me to take up my undergrad project, like the undergrad major project for the final semester on object detection. So I've been really inspired by ML and AI a lot. Now, I wouldn't say that the Indian colleges do not provide a real research in ML and AI,
Yes.
but I got to know that in the colleges in the US have a much more advanced program to pursue my research ideas.
Right.
Plus, that I don't know how that sounds like, but I have told before also, and a couple of my friends also, that I really wanted to find the purpose of my life. I really wanted to
Okay.
contribute something bigger and something more impactful to the society.
Right.
So these were the real two reasons why I joined, why I decided in my final year that I have to come to the US. So my love for machine learning and artificial
Mhm.
intelligence combined with my idea of finding the purpose of my life
Right.
uh, just helped me make this decision that okay, I think US is the best choice for me. I did not look at other countries because I think I got some personal feedback from my cousins and my own research. So if you would, my inspiration started coming a long back, but I made the final decision and started to strategize and started to do my own research when I was in my final year. So I still remember in my final year, COVID just started, and we all know 2020 it just
Right.
started. My
Right.
original plan was to come to the US in 2021, but then again I thought it's COVID, and what's the purpose of going to the US if I just have to take online classes? So I thought
Right.
let's not do the online thing and let's just go physically there. It was I was in a dilemma. What would happen? What would not happen? But yet I just started my own research. So I think I would say in 2020 when I graduated, I started to study uh, about the patterns of GRE exam or the TOEFL exams and what kind of universities would provide me scholarships. So I think that took me roughly an year to do my end of the research. And one thing I'll tell you, Rohan, that I did not consult any outside source, as in I did not do a service or something. I was mostly self-researched and self-educated. So,
Okay.
uh, if I were to tell you the GRE thing,
Mm.
I think I referred a couple of books, some online versions. There was this Manhattan 5 LB book which I referred to, and I
Okay.
used to practice from that book diligently every single day. I remember my schedule because I think at that time I also started my job. So before my
Right.
job would start, I would wake up
Mm.
around 4 a.m. From 4
Mm.
to 7 a.m. I would just do the verbal and the maths, verbal
Right.
more than the maths. So by the end of 2020 and the early beginning of 2021,
Mm-hmm.
roughly took me 6 months to get myself prepared
Okay.
for the GRE part. In May or around May, I think I filled the GRE application, and around I think I took a slot for around August. So I took a much longer time than you were
Mm-hmm.
usually anticipated what people do 3 months of GRE. I took roughly around 6 to 7 months because I wanted to make sure that I am going in the right directions.
So,
Around August,
mm.
yeah, sure, Owen, go
So
ahead.
yeah. So like as you mentioned, like in the final year. So in the final year, did you take placements or something?
I did take placements.
So where
So
did you
when I
work
was in
in the like?
Yeah,
Mm.
I think I was one of the earliest students to get placed. My placement happened not in 2020, it happened back in 2019 itself. I received an offer from Capgemini as a senior analyst, and I went ahead to join them in October 2020. That is when after I completed my undergrad studies. So um, and after around in 2000 I worked there for 1 year and I left the company to join a startup. It was
Mm-hmm.
the startup name was Aviso.ai, and I worked there roughly for around 6 months because after that I was naturally admitted to the college here in US.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I have an experience in around two companies. One
Mm-hmm.
was a product based, another was a service based, and I guess about my experience, that's pretty
Mm-hmm.
much it.
Yeah. There were few things that you mentioned that you did not consider other countries, right?
Mhm.
For going abroad. So it was basically mostly because of as your cousins they helped you in that. Like they just told you like, yeah, this is the best country. The one should go about, right? So that's why you went with US.
No, that is just one reason, Rohan. The other reason,
Mm-hmm.
as I was mentioning, that the most
Mm-hmm.
advanced AI programs and the most advanced
Mm.
machine learning programs were there in the US colleges. Now, there are a
Okay.
couple of colleges in Canada as well, which
Mm-hmm.
I'm aware of, and a couple of them were in Germany. Germany, I
Mm-hmm.
did not really choose because of the language barrier,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know why I did not choose Canada. I think it was with the weather which,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
demotivated me to pick up Canada.
Yeah.
So these were the
So.
other two colleges, other two countries which I
Mhm.
did not pick up.
So, like, how did you research about these programs? Like, as you mentioned, just there were few universities which focused on good machine learning and which provides good MLAI courses. So, how did you research about these colleges and courses?
The very simple answer is Google, 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 and Google. So
Okay.
that is, I used to go to Google. Plus, definitely, I had a
Mm-hmm.
couple of seniors and some of my family members to tell me that
Mm-hmm.
hey, you could look at them and you could. By the way, I come from a family full of computer science engineers.
Oh, okay. That's
Like
great. Yeah.
my cousins who are in my generation, they're all
Mm-hmm.
computer scientists, I would say.
Okay.
So I think I get a lot in common to talk to them about.
Mm-hmm.
So um, so yeah, I used to go to Google and I would just
Mm-hmm.
say top 10 colleges in this country and top 10 colleges in this country. And I remember there is one website which but that website is only for the US.
Mm-hmm.
It's by the US News.
USnews.com. Yeah.
Yeah, new US News. I think
Mm-hmm.
I did refer to that website to figure out which college,
Mm-hmm.
which professor. But for the
Okay.
other countries, it was I did use. I think I used to refer to some couple of YouTube videos as well, where people would
Mm-hmm.
provide their links. I remember looking at UDJ. I remember looking at Yash Mitra to give me some little bit more insight. But it was more Google. I would just go to
Mm-hmm.
Google, look at their ratings. Um, like in India, we have NIRF ratings for colleges.
Yes. Right.
Across the globe, we have what is that index? It slipped my mind.
Okay,
Uh,
QS University.
yes, so the
Okay.
QS ratings, and
Mm-hmm.
I just looked at that. But in order to go a little more further, I also researched about the programs they are offering
Mm-hmm.
and what is the research throughput. What is it that they are really good in which research areas are they really good at? So I did look up for a couple of colleges in Germany and Canada, but US I did a little bit more thorough research.
Okay, so when it comes to the shortlisting the universities, so
Hmm.
it also depends on how is our profile and what are their
That
expectations,
is
right?
true.
And there are thousands of universities. So how how did you proceed with this thing and come up to the shortlisting part of the universities?
Yes, so I think there is not one correct answer, but I'll just tell you my
Mm-hmm.
approach.
Okay.
My 2 cents are what is it that you want? The
Okay.
first thing that you need to have is clarity. Well, first of all, I would say I'll answer to your question, but I'll give a little bit
Mm-hmm.
background. I'll take you a little backwards as well.
Sure.
First thing is when you, as I was mentioning, that there has to be a purpose.
Right.
First, you need to shortlist the purpose you're coming to this college or any country or any further studies. So
Right.
your purpose should be well defined. Take a whiteboard, take a piece of paper, write down your purpose. This is the reason why I want to come to the US. Now, turn your purpose into actionable items.
Mm-hmm.
This is the purpose, and these are the couple of things I am looking for. For example, in my case, it was machine learning. I went ahead, looked at those universities which have a good machine learning program or an excellent research based program.
Hmm.
So I turned my purpose into actionable items. I went ahead and did my research and created an Excel sheet out of it.
Hmm.
I remember creating initially more than 50 colleges, but then I jot down, I think, only around 20 or something. Now, in this case, there are two things. There are colleges which are way above your profile. There are colleges which are way beyond your profile.
Hmm.
But that's okay. Just put all the colleges there, even if they are above you. Doesn't really matter
Hmm.
at this point. Now, the second thing which you should do, that what is the next thing which is more important to you? And I would say it's not just me, but it's for everybody, is the financial planning. It's good that you are driven, but what about the
Hmm.
finances? Who is going to pay
Right.
for it? You are the one who's going to pay for it, or is it your father or your mother or somebody else in your family? Or the third option could be, do you want the college to pay for yourself? You
Right.
know, you just want to go to the US 2 years, you don't want any financial burden. So there could be three reasons. Either you're coming from a very affluent family and they're
Hmm.
okay to pay your fees for a high end college.
Hmm.
The second could be, you're not coming from a very affluent college, but you really want to go into that ambitious college. So
Right.
you want to seek a loan out from the
Right.
banks. That's also another option, and it's not a bad one. But it naturally you will have to repay that loan at some point in time.
Yes.
So that's okay. I mean, that is also another perspective to look at it. My perspective was a third one. I neither wanted my family to pay for me,
Hmm.
nor did I want any financial or loan from a
Hmm.
bank. My main aim was that the university should pay for me.
Right.
So I mean, that was the tough part, the trickiest
Hmm.
part to crack. So I applied to a couple of colleges, which I felt that they were very safe for my profile in terms of funding opportunities.
Okay.
So I applied to those colleges and not the ambitious one. In fact, you would be surprised I did not apply to any ambitious college at all.
Oh.
I just
Okay.
wanted to, because that was most important to me. It might
Right.
not be for you or somebody else, but having that kind of financial independence was extremely,
Hmm.
extremely important.
Yeah.
So I just focused on that. Now you have shortlisted, and now I was very much focused. I know this is the small pool I want to target. And I
Hmm.
think I took my odds. I took that smaller pool and targeted just that, rather than focusing on the safe colleges, the ambitious
Hmm.
colleges, and um, I don't know if there's an extremely safe college for you as well. To me, safe meant that some college who could provide me with financial help.
Right.
Now I did my research. I came up with different things. UMBC I chose because it's an R1 university.
Hmm.
It suited my goals for the research part.
Hmm.
Plus, it's a history of providing funding opportunities, if not right away, maybe from next semester onwards, or from next to next semester onwards.
Okay.
So did a couple of other colleges, for example, to which I applied. I would tell them as well. Like Virginia Tech has a fully funded MS program. If you're
Okay.
selected in their MS program, you are bound to get like a funding opportunity there.
Okay.
Then I chose Texas. I chose University of Houston. So Texas State provides a very unique proposition, and it's a very international friendly state.
Hmm.
If you receive approximately around a $1,000 scholarship from your
Hmm.
college, then the Texas government tells you, hey, you are in state. So your fees is reduced to the in state tuition and not the out of the state tuition. So I
Okay.
picked up state as well. This is
Okay.
funny, but I picked up a state also. It's not just the college, but it's a
Hmm.
state. So I think that was one of I picked up that as well. Then I remember did pick up University of Illinois at
Hmm.
Chicago, but then I realized Chicago is too expensive. Yet, anyways, my odds were good, so I did go
Hmm.
ahead and apply. There were some other colleges to which I applied, but it's only because they were waiving off my application fees.
Okay.
For example, I think I remember it was Stevens, and they were waiving off the
Mhm.
application. They did provide me with the scholarship, but it wasn't suiting to what I exactly wanted.
Okay.
So I did receive admits from mostly all of them. I think barring Virginia Tech, I remember.
Mhm. So for like
Um,
how many universities did you fill the application form? And
I felt 5 to 6 universities. That's it.
so generally it is said to fill at least 10 or 15 so that you can get uh, at least three,
It
four
is,
shortlist. But how you were so sure, like, okay, I'm just filling for 5, 6, and then also I will get that
but
know.
I think what I did different was that I
Mm,
reached out to a couple of people who were studying in those universities
okay,
and having a real talk with them. That
okay,
what do you think my odds are? And I tell
mm,
you, people are helpful. If you just need to reach out to them. Sometimes they might be busy. I do personally receive a lot of messages on LinkedIn that,
mm,
hey, can you help me with this and that? I remember in my case, I reached out to a lot of people even before applying. That what do you
mm,
think my odds are?
mm,
And if somebody who comes from an ML background, I'll tell you one thing: data is gold.
right,
So if it
right,
worked for them, it should work for you because universities are not suddenly going to change their algorithms,
right,
right? If it worked
yeah,
for 10 people with similar kind of a profile as mine,
mm,
I think it's going to work for me. I
right,
remember I was telling you I did not receive from Virginia Tech.
yes,
And I realized that a lot of people in that year did not receive from Virginia Tech with a very
okay,
exceptional profile. So
okay,
there could be a chance that sometime, some year, the university has lost on their funding and they're not willing to help so many people. There could be N
mm,
reasons. But that
right,
happens, I think, once in a blue moon. Universities
mm,
don't make that kind of a decision suddenly.
mm,
Apart from that, I would say if you still have a 50% probability of going to that college, you can still place a bet on that.
okay,
One thing I really did differently was to speak to a lot of people
mm,
before even applying. Do you think that I will be admitted here? My profile is this. What do you think? And I think a lot of people reached out back to me saying that you have an excellent profile. You should surely apply. My profile
okay,
was this, and yours look better than mine. Or somebody
mm,
could say yours look similar to mine. So
okay,
that is why I told you having your part of the research, having your own due diligence is important.
mm,
So that is one of the reasons I would say Rohan made me so sure that I am going to get an admit from at least 3 out of 5
okay,
because that college had a history of doing that.
right,
What would take that college to suddenly change that decision could happen to one of them. Not all of them are going to do that.
right. So,
So that was
yeah.
my well calculated risk I took.
So you mentioned a lot about profile, like building a good profile. So, like, what is this secret? Like getting a TA-ship as well, scholarship as well, getting good colleges as well, applying for 6 and getting admission for 5 colleges. So, what was so special about your profile? What did you do exceptionally without any consultant uh, that generally students don't do?
I'll tell you.
Hmm.
I think I can talk a lot about it, but I'll first tell you what
Hmm.
worked in my case. And I
Okay.
am going to quote something which the professor at UMBC, who was in charge of reviewing my profile, told
Hmm.
me later on.
Okay.
So I still remember I was in my second year and I happened to take one of the classes. Now I really did not know Rohan that he was the one who actually reviewed my profile,
Okay.
and I was the only person from that batch who received a direct offer
Okay.
out of I don't know how many 500 people.
Okay.
So he remembered my name because he told me that you were the first person and the only person we extended an offer so early for the TA-ship. And he told me that, hey Nancy, one day he called me to his cabin and told me, hey Nancy,
Hmm.
I looked at a lot of profiles, and the letter of recommendations which I have received for you
Mm-hmm.
were excellent, were way, way, way good.
Mm-hmm.
So he told me the secret, that why we extended you this thing, because probably my undergrad professors vouched for me to give a teaching assistantship.
Okay.
No, that's it. Apart from that, I don't think so. There was a lot of secret behind that.
Mm.
But now to get to that point, for my professors
Mm.
vouching me to give a TA ship, what did
Mm.
I do?
Mm.
Extra. So now let's come back to that. When I was in my undergrad college, I
Mm.
I did not realize it in the beginning of my first year or so, but it worked out very well for me later on.
Mm.
Was that academics are just one part of it. That's still the easier part. The difficult part is to get involved yourself in extracurricular activities.
Mm.
Now, if I tell a bit about my history to you, when
Mm.
I just joined my undergrad college, not in the first year, but from second year onwards, I started to take and getting myself involved in different clubs and different positions.
Mm.
Because my college was pretty new, so I along with a couple of my other friends was the founder of the coding club of my college,
Mm.
and I also went ahead to take the cultural secretary position. So I did both. I did the technical club and all of that coding and all of
Mm.
that part, mentoring and all, but was also involved in the cultural fests of my college.
Okay.
So I did head up the fest, and I oversaw a lot of things which were involved in the fest, and many cultural activities. I still remember initiating an event which involved a
Mm.
food exhibition, because I'm a big food lover. So
Okay.
that made me do that. And the third thing was that I had a very close and personal relationship with my professors.
Okay.
I remember working on a book with one of my professors during breaks. So he naturally vouched me because of
Mm.
that, because I helped him work on two books.
Mm.
One hasn't been published, but one was published.
Okay.
So he knew me very, very personally. In fact, my professor did write me a recommendation letter to intern at Siemens as well.
Okay.
So that worked out for me. I would say two things in summary, if you want to understand, is
Mm.
build close and personal relations with your professors and do meaningful work with them.
Okay.
In my case, I worked on books. Like I
Mm.
helped to work. I was in his lab and helped him write books, edit the content, and give my suggestions. Naturally, he was the lead, and I was following some of it, but it helped me don different hats
Right.
when I was editing and I was giving content and proposing some new ideas to him. So one, I was involved with him. The second thing I would say, I think I was also the
Mm.
gold medalist
Mm.
of my department. So I was
Okay.
doing fairly well in my academics as well.
Mm.
So building close personal relationships and doing meaningful work with my professors. The second thing, I was building a holistic profile for myself. That's what I enjoyed.
Right.
Let's be honest.
Right.
It wasn't because I was targeting US. Oh, no, no, no. That was just what I enjoyed.
Right.
I really like to be involved in cultural activities. It just helped
Mm.
me keep my mind sane.
Right.
So I'm not going to falsely say that it was all because of that, because that wasn't why I did it. So these were the two things I would say helped me write a very good statement of purpose later on. I did not
Okay.
realize the importance then, but when I was writing my statement of purpose, it all of that helped me jot down, what I
Mm.
did, why I did. There was a purpose, and that's how I wrote in my statement of purpose as well.
Mm.
And in my case, I would say the LOS worked amazing, because that's what the professor who was reviewing my profile told me.
Okay. So, like, can you also give some tips about building a good CV or writing a good SOP and essay? And should we
Yes.
like build those uh, for individual colleges or just one which we can apply to every college? So, in your case, how was that?
So I'll tell you the strat, and I think I took my sweet time to work around this. I took
Okay.
around 1.5 month to just work on the SOP. And mind, when I say 1.5 month, I used to sit every day to for 3 to 4 hours just on the
Okay.
SOP. It was a tedious task.
Okay.
I don't know. I sometimes feel that, if somebody was there to help me guide with that, it would have been much easier. But anyways, so that
Mm-hmm.
was the most toughest part for me, because as I
Mm-hmm.
was mentioning to you like previously also, I didn't do it on purpose, but it helped
Mm-hmm.
me later on. So what I
Okay.
did was that I created a common template first.
Mm.
I remember I created I so whenever I write anything, Rohan, I just
Mm-hmm.
don't go blindly like that. I
Mm-hmm.
need because I have been an engineer for so long that the
Mm-hmm.
idea of creating modules has always fascinated me.
Right.
So I know that I have to write this essay in 2 pages or 1 pages,
Mm.
and I will dedicate space for it. And literally, I would just put a mark that, here I'm going to put my introduction, here I'm going to put my college work, and here I'm going to put my industry experience. And at the
Mm-hmm.
last, I would give a very nice proposal to the college as to why they should take me.
Okay.
So I divided my entire thing into two parts. My background, very short, because they have my CV. They don't need
Yes.
to have facts in that. They need to see something which is not there in my resume,
Okay.
right? It's similar to how you write a cover letter,
Right.
I would say. So you can give a short background, and then in the next lines, you can give a sweet proposal that why they should be willing to hire you.
Okay.
When I say hire, I use a lot of terms like hire and all,
Yes. Yes.
because all of my ideas were inspired from how a company would hire me.
Yes.
I think it was
Absolutely true.
similar,
Yeah.
yeah, it is similar to that, more so because I was willing to get an offer of a TA ship or
Mm-hmm.
something along those lines. That is why I'm choosing the terms hire.
Right.
But then this was my first approach. Later on, I realized when I'm giving my introduction, right, there are certain skill sets.
Mm-hmm.
And what if I always give them this thing that, at the end of each paragraph, I just indirectly hint that this is my skill and this will benefit you.
Okay.
So I created 4 to 5 chunks. In the first, I went to my childhood. In the
Mm-hmm.
first paragraph, very short. That and if you know my background, I think I took up the coding classes and all early on from class 6 onwards. So
Okay.
coding has always been so. I have been always fascinated by it because I was in a
Mm-hmm.
school which allowed me to do so.
Okay.
So I just gave a short background about my early childhood things. Even though people say
Mm-hmm.
don't do that, I would say still do that. Maybe just reserve 2 lines for that. It wouldn't
Okay.
harm. That just helps to build the story. You need to build the story. You need to connect all your past events dot by dot by dot by dot and build seamlessly. Then I went ahead to express what happened in my undergrad college.
Mm-hmm.
you know in my second paragraph, that I was talking to a couple of PhD researchers and what inspired me into ML. Then
Mm-hmm.
I posed a couple of questions in that same paragraph as well, that,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think that if this would have happened here, and how could I solve some of the things. So I just posed a small simple question that showed whoever is reviewing my profile that I can think as well. So
Right.
the purpose of me posing few questions in my entire SOP and then answering them just help them, understand that I can think.
Right.
In the next third and the fourth paragraph, I mentioned some of my achievements at work when I was awarded. For example, there was this time when I was awarded the Millennial of the Quarter, and what
Mm-hmm.
innovative project helped me to do so. So
Okay.
I mentioned a couple of my achievements, which, though mentioned in my CV, what I mentioned here were different. What helped me do that,
Okay.
and I would be willing to do the same when I joined your college. I will go above and beyond to make sure that we excel at the workplace. And I excel even both at academics and, of course, I wanted an assistantship. So I would
Mm-hmm.
mention that as well. Though not very directly. It was a very indirect way I did that.
Okay.
In the next paragraph, I mentioned about my GRE score, which had a so I when I was giving my GRE, I had COVID. So
Okay.
naturally, I was not in a very good state of mind to get a
Right.
very good score. So my GRE score took a hit. It took a little bit of a drop than I expected. I mentioned that reason as well, why that happened.
Mm-hmm.
In the next paragraph, I again mentioned that, about the professor, that how I am diligent. So whenever I wanted to showcase some things, right, that I'm hardworking or I am
Mm-hmm.
diligent and I
Mm-hmm.
am honest and I'm trustworthy, I have
Mm-hmm.
leadership skills, I would always make sure that I dedicate each paragraph for that and quote with an example that I have networking skills, for example. So the main idea was to keep a placeholder that I want to showcase 5 skills. How will I
Mm-hmm.
make them believe that I have these 5 skills? If I just write, they would never believe me. I mean, no human will believe that.
Yes.
Everyone will do that. So the idea of mapping those skills with real examples help them. Okay, this kid has this skill, and based on that, she's quoting an example, which means she has a history and she will be able to do it again as well. If she has done it
Right.
before, she can do it again.
Right.
So that was my idea for dedicating each paragraphs one by one, and then at the last I would say, this is how I am being diligent or I'm being hardworking based on that. And sometimes I wouldn't even mention it because it was a no-brainer for anybody to understand that I possess this skill. The last paragraph was important, so 4 to 5 paragraphs were common for every college,
Okay.
right? These are the kind. This is me. These are my skills I want to show you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's common for every college, but the last paragraph now, that's the most interesting part. So the last paragraph is divided into 2 parts.
Mm-hmm.
One, where I tell them that, I want to work with this professor. I want to take my master's to PhD.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the reason why I want to work because it clearly aligns with my research intentional goals. So these were the
Right.
two things I specifically mentioned. What am I going to do after masters? So I'm not restricting myself to just masters. I'm
Right.
telling them what am I going to do after masters. One thing, and if you tell them that after masters you are going into a PhD, and if it's a research university, they are going to just take you in because by now they know that you have full on clarity as to why you're coming to the US, what you want to do in the US, and after you even complete the masters.
Mm-hmm.
So I told them that clarity, that I know why I am coming, what I want to do here, how I want to contribute, and what am I going to do after this.
Okay.
And so when I say that how I am going to do, in what I am saying that I want to do is by maybe joining a research lab with this
Right.
professor. And I just tell them, so these were the two clear cut intentional thing which I said. The third thing I mentioned to them is that, hey, I would appreciate that based on this you could give me a teaching assistantship slash and research assistantship, because
Mm-hmm.
we have a collaborative environment and I'm going to provide my skills to make your community better, so much
Mm-hmm.
so that you're going to give me the experience and knowledge to improve myself. So it's going to be a collaborative thing. So that is a kind of statement I made at the end.
Okay.
And I showed my professors who I was taking this LOR or letter of recommendation, the same SOP. I had a phone call with them. I stated that, look, I did this kind of a work with you. Now I would really appreciate that, if you could for me, vouch for me about my teaching assistantship, because it's a clear cut aim I am targeting at. So I think it's also very important to give the professors or your managers, if you're in an industry, a little heads up as to
Mm-hmm.
what they should be putting in your LORs. Now, you are not going to write your LORs on your own. No, that's not what I'm
Right.
saying. But
Mm-hmm.
giving them a couple of bullet points really helps. And many good professors ask you, what is it that you are expecting from this admin,
Mm-hmm.
this college? My professors did ask me the same. What is it that you're expecting? What is
Mm-hmm.
it that is the ideal situation for you? And because we know that you are such a good student, we are going to vouch for you. So even if they were not aware of the teaching assistantship part, I made sure that I told them well in advance that I'm targeting the teaching assistantships or the research assistantships. So that was that's how you define your SOP.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can do a scale, one scale and example mapping, but it should all flow in a story. That's
Right.
the thing. And the next, so that is the common which you use for every college. The next set of the paragraph should include you directly asking the college that I would appreciate that if you would give me, because clearly by now that the college knows that you have these skills and you are a
Mm.
good catch. And be sure to tell them not just what you're going to do till masters, but after masters as well. I think that's something which many people miss. But I
Mm-hmm.
realized that if I was, so I designed all of this considering the fact that if I were at the admissions committee, how would
Mm.
I review a profile out of, let's say, 1,000 candidates?
Right.
And what is it that I would want to see different in something? And to tell you that, Rohan, I did look at a couple of professors who were at the admissions committee,
Okay.
the what is it that they are looking for. I don't remember which website or where I did all of that
Mm-hmm.
research, because I don't have a tab of them at all. I don't have a
Okay.
track
Okay.
of that at all right now. But I
Yes.
did look at a lot of professors saying, I still remember one of the professors mentioned that there is one candidate and they showed two examples of SOP. That this is the one, this is the second one. Now there was a candidate who wanted to be a librarian. One
Mm-hmm.
could be very straightforward, I wanted to be a librarian. The second one really showcased her passion, that why
Right.
she wanted to be a librarian. So the admission committees, professors do upload this kind of an information. They do
Okay.
share with the world, what is it that they are looking for in a candidate. So I remember doing that research before even writing my SOP. That if I were at that admissions committee, how would I have rated my profile? And after that, I think I
Mm-hmm.
showcased to a couple of cousins of mine, a couple of friends of mine, what do you think about
Mm-hmm.
my SOP? So my SOP never came out perfect in the first go. It took
Yes. Yes.
me
Obviously.
around
Mm.
four iterations
Okay.
to really come to that. Now it's my gold.
Mm.
Now I can see it.
Okay. So yeah, like it was really insightful, like how to build a SOP and how to get a LOR to the point what we expect from the professors and our managers to go about. And is it like something different when you build a scholarship application, or is it also combined with the original application?
So there is no separate scholarship application to the best of my knowledge.
Okay.
However, I have heard in, so that's what I did. I
Mm.
just asked my professors that I am targeting this. So can you please align the SOP,
Mm.
I mean the LOR according to, you do all, but can you please make sure that you make this, can you vouch for me for that assistantship? That is the only thing
Okay.
I think they would have done, and that got validated when the professor at UMBC told me that, yeah, it was there in your profile. So there
Got
is
it.
no
Mm.
separate application. I did not do any separate application for
Mm-hmm.
teaching assistantship. Now that's an altogether different topic. How many different types of assistantships are there? So
Mm.
for teaching assistantships in specific, no application for me. But I have heard instances from a couple of friends of mine, and it works different for different colleges. So you need to
Okay.
understand that what is it that works for which college. Plus, Rohan, you should also be aware that which stage are you in.
Mm.
For example, let's say you haven't received an admit yet. So that is the best you can do. You can mention in your SOP, you can mention in your LORs, and that's it.
Mm.
So you are in pre-admit stage.
Right.
Let's say if a university or a college mentions explicitly, right, that if you
Mm.
want funding, you have to fill. Then you go ahead and fill that. So I still remember I filled out another scholarship. So I'll just take a couple of minutes to describe you what are the
Sure.
different
Sure.
ways you can get funded.
Sure.
One is the teaching assistantship. The second is the research assistantship. The third is the resident assistantship. And the fourth is, I would say, these are outside agencies which give you funding
Mm-hmm.
opportunities to study in the US or other countries. The fourth
Mm-hmm.
one are those. And in my college, there is something called as a grader.
Okay.
A few of the colleges also do administrative assistantships. And then there are variations of all of these. This is the information which I have till date. Some
Okay.
college might have other things. And then there are fellowships, of course. If you're really well established as a researcher, then there are
Mm.
fellowships like Bright and People go on J1 visas or as well. So I
Okay.
think that's not what we are discussing right now.
Yes.
So these are a couple of them. So the teaching assistantship is where you mostly do 20 hours per week, and that depends. So there
Hmm.
could be a teaching assistantship where you do 10 hours per week, 20 hours per week. So one is considered full time, another is part time.
Okay.
One is an assistantship. Research assistantship is where you typically reach out a professor. They have an interview, and then you start working in a lab. So research assistantship is a very interesting assistantship. I had one for the summer.
Hmm. Okay.
So I was already working in a professor's lab, and he was happy to provide me a research assistantship for the summer.
Okay.
There you have to talk, build connection again, build connections with the professor, do the work with them,
Hmm.
and these professors usually have a link or connection with the industry people as well, or they might be having their own funds to give you
Okay.
the money for that. So the second research assistantship is directly associated with professors.
Hmm.
To the best of my knowledge, I have never seen a professor taking any candidate at the pre-admit stage, unless unless the candidate has approached the professor, had gone through those interviews. So there is no application per se. It depends from professor to professor entirely. Even
Okay.
in UMBC, if you want to work with the professor, some might have an application to fill out. With some, you might want to book an appointment. So it could depend.
Right.
But I would say most of the research assistantships are offered when you are being admitted and when you're physically in the campus.
Okay.
Though I have seen a couple of students who have approached the professors even before coming to US. So they were way, way ahead. And I
Okay.
have seen a couple of students who have received research assistantships even before they come to the US.
Okay.
So it's not like that you can't do that,
Mm-hmm.
but 80 or 90% they will not give you until you come to the college.
Got it.
But 10% of the times, because I have seen that cases, those cases personally, it can happen. So the teaching assistantship I talked all about.
Hmm.
Like, you assist the professors and guide the
Mm-hmm.
students, teach, grade, and all of that. A variation of teaching assistantship is a grader, which happens in UMBC. So grader is also somewhat similar to TA, but the
Hmm.
benefits are different. With the teaching assistantship in my college, they give me full tuition and a stipend and a health insurance.
Okay.
It could vary for other colleges as well. For example, some colleges might give you waivers, some might not. But the teaching assistantship is mostly associated that you are paired with a professor.
Got
Research
it.
assistantship work in the labs and do the research work. That's the primary goal of an RA. The resident assistantship is it's a bit tricky and it's a little unheard of,
Okay.
but that is where if you are in a dorm, and I think that's more for undergrad students. But I have
Mm-hmm.
seen a couple of cases, just one or two, where a graduate student has also received a resident assistantship.
Okay.
There you have to take in charge of the dorm activities. So just like in India we have hostels, in US we have
Right.
dorms.
Okay.
So that's a separate application you have to fill, and mostly if you have connections, that would
Mm-hmm.
help you. And you just have to be really well aware. But that also happens after you have been admitted to the college.
Got it.
Then the fourth one is what I was telling as administrative assistant. Then they are not associated with academics per se, but it's a special position. Again, primarily reserved for undergrad students, but exists for grad as well.
Okay.
That you have to help them with administrative tasks. For example, let's say you go ahead and join maybe the department which handle queries for admissions. They do have those kind of positions, so you could be lucky to get there. So those are some assistantships. Or for example, you could be working in the library and helping them manage certain tasks. So, or you might be building a website for your college,
Mm-hmm.
or you might be helping them. So these are all of these things. They are not primarily a part of TARA or your traditional roles, but it is different. I have seen people who have received an offer from the library. Mostly, you can classify them as an on-campus job, as a part of an
Mm-hmm.
on-campus job, minus the dining jobs. I'm not counting the dining jobs here. Dining
Got it.
jobs work on hourly basis, and they require a lot of your physical stamina and makes you a lot tiring. And they might not be helpful on your resume. But there are other jobs apart from the dining on campus, which will help you add to your resume.
Mm.
The website part, or maintaining the website, working for a certain club. So they do open these kind of positions, but you really have to be vigilant, and you really need to have be in that network to get those kind
Got
of
it.
jobs. The other ones are external, I would say, external sources. I did receive one external scholarship as well. So I received $1,000 scholarship, which can be applied towards my tuition or towards any of the other college expenses I had to do with.
And how did you
So
find that scholarship?
again,
General Google only.
general Google as well. Plus, as I was mentioning to you, a couple of friends were
Okay.
also involved in my case. So they
Okay.
were also filing for the US. So we had a common thing which we'll share around. Hey, look,
Okay.
this is good if you want to file for it. So along those lines. So I did receive one of them as well,
Mm-hmm.
for my first year, and that got applied to my mandatory fee. So I had to literally pay. Uh, I don't remember. I think I just ended up paying around $300 or $400 as mandatory fees, and my mandatory fees was around 1400, 1500 at that time.
Okay.
So
Mm.
because and that scholarship covered me for that. So, there are different kinds of scholarships, and now to write an SOP for those scholarships is
Mm.
altogether different story. That's very different method how you approach those funding agencies. So you really need to be looking out for those scholarships. What are those?
Mm.
There are some very well known, like the
Mm-hmm.
Tatas and others. These are very well known, and thousands of applicants apply. But there are certain scholarships which are not very well known,
Mm.
so the competition is very less there. The one which I applied, I think nobody even knew,
Right.
and I happened to receive it along with one of my friend who also happened to receive it. So I would
Okay.
say you can target some of these scholarships,
Mm.
uh, which are not going to pay you a huge amount, but
Mm.
even $1,000 doesn't hurt you, right?
Right. Right.
And I think I was inspired by one of the YouTube videos where there was a candidate who was doing her undergrads in the US, and she said
Mm.
that she had 10 scholarships, and that
Wow.
helped her cover her tuition fees for the entire year. So she applied to 10 different scholarships,
Mm-hmm.
and she received all 10 of them. So that is another way to, cover your, I mean, it's good to reduce your
Mm-hmm.
tuition as much
Right.
as you can.
Can you like briefly tell about the how to apply for scholarship? Like as you mentioned about SOP, in short, how to apply
Mhm.
for scholarship? Just a bullet
So,
point wise.
I
Yeah.
would say these external scholarships, right?
Mm.
They are very different in nature.
Mm-hmm.
Um, First, you need to be eligible for that. The first
Right.
thing is this.
Right.
There was this we make scholars website who try
Mm-hmm.
to get you as many scholarships, which will match your eligibility, and they have done a wonderful job, I would say.
Mm.
So you can either pick up we make scholars to,
Mm-hmm.
shortlist a couple of scholarships, but some of the scholarships, as I was mentioning, they're not even on we make scholars or your kit.
Mm.
You can get them maybe just Google, but that's tedious. So I would say just go for VMake Scholars and all. Unless you are lucky and somebody's telling you that, hey, this is a very not well known scholarship, but the money they are offering is good, so we might be lucky to get in. So I
Okay.
would say to apply first, you need to check whether you are eligible or not.
Mm.
Second, this is something which I don't know if many people do it or not, but I would say 1 year before you're applying to any scholarship, right? Try to keep a tab on them that
Okay.
these ones and these are the ones. So you can create your own Excel sheet. Very simple. Just keep an Excel sheet
Mm-hmm.
and mark the dates. This is when it will open. This is when it will end.
Okay.
So if you let's say you have 20 or 30 such scholarships for which you are eligible, so start understanding the requirements. If they haven't given the requirements just yet, you know
Mm.
that it happened in the previous year as well. So what is it that was there at that time? So you can start building, you can understand the requirement. For example, do they require an SOP? Do they want you to answer some specific questions? If they've asked you to answer some specific questions, then you have to answer. And most of these scholarships will ask you to answer specific questions. I would say some of the common questions they ask is that why are you interested in this scholarship? What, how will it help you? And couple of others about your background, relevant experience. It
Hmm.
depends, I would say. I have never seen one structured scholarship template, but the
Okay.
common ones are these. So there are different tips as to how you write. Most some of them might require you to write an SOP, but my big suggestion is please don't copy paste your college SOP there. It's
Okay.
not going to help them. Scholarships are an altogether different method. You cannot approach it with your college SOP. You can
Hmm.
take some pieces from there, but you cannot approach it with that. For example, in my case, I remember the scholarship. It was ISC two, so it's a
Okay.
two as in like upper two. So ISC
Right.
two graduate cyber security
Hmm.
scholarship. That was the one. So when I was writing the letter and I was answering those questions, one of the major things which I focused was on the humanitarian aspect of the scholarship. That was a
Okay.
technical scholarship, by the way. I didn't answer all of that. At that time, I wasn't doing anything in cybersecurity. But somewhere I thought that I could club my machine learning experience in cybersecurity domain.
Hmm.
So I told them I don't have that experience right now, but I want to do it in future. And one of the requirements said that if you intend to do, still you can apply, even though you don't have experience in cybersecurity right now. So I gave them that I wanted to apply machine learning to solve
Hmm.
cybersecurity some problems, which I did later on work as well, a couple of them only. So what I did was the tech part. It was easy that I will do this. That's why I need it and all of that. But one thing which I received, which I learned from that YouTube video which I was referring to, was that she
Hmm.
mentioned show your humanitarian aspect as well. So what I did differently in that scholarship was I told them that hey, you are going to provide me this scholarship right now, but
Hmm.
someday in the future I'm going to return back the favor. I am going to be the person who will give scholarship to other candidates like me. So I started my application with thanking them. I know that the scholarship portal has been open and you must have received a lot of candidates by now. So
Hmm.
first of all, I just want to appreciate your time to look at my application. So I thanked them,
Hmm.
and I meant that I'm thanking them, because when you thank somebody for their time and they are frustrated, that just eases them down. And these people who are working at the back of the scholarship, right,
Hmm.
their work is never appreciated.
Right.
So I first appreciated their work, what they're doing.
Right.
Now that line itself would put me in the good book somehow psychologically. That's what
Hmm.
I feel. Now the next thing I meant started with, I didn't just naturally start with my technical background. That I would reserve for later. They have seen the technical backgrounds of thousands of people before me.
Right.
I There is nothing I can tell them unless I'm a Nobel Prize winner or an Alan Turing Award winner that would excite them,
Right.
right? So I started with thanking them, appreciating for their work, and the
Hmm.
next I mentioned that why you should pick me. And one of the main reasons I gave them, right now, if I will be, I just told them, see, necessarily I am not entitled to this scholarship, but I would
Right.
appreciate if you provide me this opportunity, because I am going to make the best out of it. So thank them enough, because these people don't receive that thanks. Appreciate them enough. The first thing
Hmm.
like my experience is, thank and appreciate them enough. The next thing you can do is that tell them how the scholarship is going to make a difference to you. And I'm not just saying that, hey, if you provide this scholarship to me, I'll excel in this skill and so skill. For that, you
Hmm.
can take Udemy courses. Let's be honest,
Right. Yeah.
right? How will this help? Just getting a bunch of books and a bunch of
Hmm.
maybe a laptop. That's not going to cut it. Everyone is
Yes.
writing that.
Yes.
So tell them what is it that is different in you. Tell them you are a
Mm.
human and you look at making changes in the society, even if it is small right now.
Right.
So and never just so I'll tell you again. I focus so much on examples, but I think that has always worked in my case. If you can show
Yes.
your past history, so I just told them that I'm very fascinated about helping people, and I
Mm-hmm.
know I am the kind of person who is in help right now. But I
Mm-hmm.
promise you that once you give this scholarship to me, going forward, when I'm going to be somebody in the industry, when I'm going to be somebody famous, and when
Mm-hmm.
I will be in that position, I am going to come to these boards myself, and I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to be the one who is going to return the favor to the society back. Maybe not necessarily you, but I'm going to do with somebody else. So let's keep that chain continued. Let's help each other out. You
Okay.
pass on your help to me, and I'm going to pass on the help to somebody else. That's
Mm-hmm.
how we coexist. Then in the next paragraph, I quoted them with examples that how I have been able to help the society right now. So I mentioned about my initiatives at the club and how I mentored people. I was not,
Mm-hmm.
nobody was expecting me to do that, but
Right.
because as a human being, I like to help. So I did
Right.
went ahead, took initiatives, and I went ahead and took a couple of initiatives very early on in my stage when I used to go with my mom. My mom used to teach people a lot, and she
Mm-hmm.
would just teach kids and never take a fees from them who are poor and needy. So I used to
Mm-hmm.
sit with her. I used to help them teach very early on,
Okay.
from my fifth grade or sixth grade. So I think that is something my mom inculcated in me. Hey, can you do this? You already know that. So
Mm-hmm.
those were small kids. I would teach them something, and I think ever since I've developed this attitude to help others out, help others seek their passion out.
Got it.
I mentioned that from very early on stages, I quoted a couple of examples. My mom's experience with me, and we doing this kind of social work and helping the
Mm-hmm.
society out and educating the society. Then going forward, this attitude even came with me when I was in my undergrad college. So those were some small acts of me giving back to the society in my own way. Anyone who is reviewing my profile is going to appreciate it because
Right.
whatever resources I have. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm doing something like Melinda Gates Foundation. No, but based on my
Right.
resources, that was what I could give you. That I could provide you with my skills, my expertise, my knowledge, and I'm going to return it back to you.
Right.
So I did it. I backed what I was saying with examples. Then later on, I said that once I'm going to be more powerful and more empowered, I'm going to give even better. So that is why you should pick me, because I'm somebody
Mm-hmm.
who has shown a past history and who has always tried to do things with whatever resources I have. So I've always made sure to give back to the society, in even if those acts were very simple and short, and they might not be of so much meaning to the world as of
Mm-hmm.
now. But if I can educate a couple in small section, I would be more than happy that I did my part. So that is the kind of attitude I would, and these things are very personal to me, and I am not lying
Right.
about them because I've done
Right.
them.
Right.
I would say that these are the kind of things which, these
Mm.
scholarship who are evaluating your applications, these reviewers are looking forward to. They want to understand how you are as a human. Your CV has provided them enough evidence about your relevant experience. And
Mm-hmm.
even if you don't have all the experience right now, you have the attitude to develop that experience. Sometimes that works like magic, I would say.
Right.
So that's what I would say, that you should prepare that. Show them the
Mm-hmm.
human side up,
Got it.
or show the technical part, but show them
Yes.
this as well, equally
Human
as
side
well.
as well. Right.
Yes.
Yes. So yeah, like that was very informative. How to write a good SOP and how to write a good scholarship application. And like first time I'm listening about, yeah, we have to show our humanly side, which also encourages us, keeps our application uh, apart from the other applications. So yeah, it's a great insight actually. So once you got your admission, so how did you figure out your visa process and the accommodation process of it.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
So, I would say the visa process is the standard
Hmm.
process which everyone does. In my case, I would say that I booked an appointment. At that time, booking an appointment was difficult. I was just lucky
Okay.
enough to get a spot. Um, if you were asking me about the specific details,
Yes,
I
like
do not.
after booking an
Mhm,
appointment, like what type of questions they ask and how to prepare for those questions, especially when if you don't have much of the admits from the colleges and all those things.
mhm. So let me first tell you how my visa experience went, and then I'll tell
Okay.
you what I did to
Sure.
get there. So I think
Sure.
that would be a good start.
Yeah.
When I went to my visa experience, visa interview process,
Mm-hmm.
the interviewer asked me, "How are you?" You know, we greeted, and I would say, if you are going to an interviewer, please make sure to smile. That's the most
Right.
important thing. They
Right.
they don't want to see your straight face. No,
Tense faced.
please no.
Yeah.
Nobody is interested in that. They
Right.
are tired. Please
Right.
understand they're human, right?
Right.
Um, they are not here to I would say visa interviews are not so much about interviews.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we should remove the interview part and just say it's a visa chat.
Okay.
My personal opinion is that reduces a lot of pressure from you as well.
Okay.
And in my case, I feel that I can naturally pick up a conversation. So
Right.
in my case, it became all more easier because I really like to talk to people, and
Mm-hmm.
based on that, I think I've observed a couple of things, couple of differences which I have from my friends.
Mm-hmm.
And naturally, I just went to the interviewer and had a smiling face. I asked him, "You look tired. I'm sure you have had done a lot of work. So I really appreciate you. Again, appreciate them. The
Mm-hmm.
best thing you can do is to appreciate them.
Right.
Once you take that initiative to appreciate them, right, again in their head you are being put in their good books.
Yes.
We really need to learn as human beings to appreciate the other party.
Mm-hmm.
So once that happened, so I think after that he just asked me that, where you are going, in which state. I said Baltimore and UMBC, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
going for masters in computer science. Then um he just I think there were two different kind of conversations we happened it happened which I remember. One was that, he never asked me why you want to go and all of that, but
Okay.
he just asked me about, tell me what's your experience, and you know what made you uh, choose CS, and just tell me a bit
Mm-hmm.
about you. He just asked me about me. So I told
Mm-hmm.
him that I did my undergrad college from here, and uh, I told him it was a beautiful place. That's how the conversation was starting to happen.
Right.
It's a beautiful place. I really enjoy the people there. So he said, what's different about the people there? I said people are very
Mm-hmm.
honest, they're very trustworthy. And I think I remember telling them an incident that once I lost a pen drive and shopkeeper realized that it's from
Okay.
my college. He sent somebody and I got it back. He was like so
Mm-hmm.
amazed by that. And then I started to describing a couple of things there, the flora and the fauna. He said,
Mm-hmm.
can you suggest me places to visit there? I said, you can visit maybe the Zuku Valley if you ever happen to come to the Northeast, because Northeast
Mm-hmm.
was very beautiful. So our
Yes.
conversation was very natural.
Mm-hmm.
He just wanted to have a casual conversation with me based on my
Mm-hmm.
experience, and that's what it just continued.
Mm-hmm.
I realized that the interviewer was so comfortable in this conversation that he did not want to even know which degree program, what you are going to do, no, nothing at all. Then the next thing he asked me about Baltimore's crime, and I just told him that yeah, I'm very well aware of. So he asked me, what do your parents think about? And I gave him like, my parents don't think about anything. They have sent me before to to live on my own. They don't think about it.
Right.
They're like, we trust the decision. So, but the interview was very kind, and he told me that we know it's a little bit of a crime, but remember we are there for you.
Mm-hmm.
So we are always going to be there for you. It was a very natural conversation for 20 minutes. I
Okay.
mean, if you can engage somebody for 20 minutes in a visa interview, I would say that's amazing because they are enjoying your company now.
Right.
The interview part went straight out of the window when you smiled and appreciated them. Now they are looking at you as somebody whom they can spend some time with and
Mm-hmm.
forget their tiredness.
Right.
So that's my comment on the visa interview. And to be honest, Rohan, I never prepared for my visa interviews. No,
Okay.
I did. It's weird, it's strange, but I would say because I'm a conversationalist, I'm a very
Mm-hmm.
natural conversationalist. I trusted my skills and I rarely get nervous
Okay.
uh, in front of people. I have done a lot of public speaking,
Mm-hmm.
and that is something that doesn't happen to me very often, that I'll get nervous and I'll start blanking out. That doesn't happen to
Mm-hmm.
me often. What I did definitely do was prepared my documents,
Mm-hmm.
because now I'm going to tell you some of the common things which people worry about and which you should
Mm-hmm.
have, even though you are very confident about your conversational skills. And that is what
Okay.
even I did. So what I did was I prepared my funding documents. So as I was mentioning, I had an offer. So I definitely got my I-20 DS 160. Is it? So that form, and I prepared my bank statements. I did not have a
Mm-hmm.
loan, so I never showed one. I
Oh.
just showed my funding which was written on I-20. But
Okay.
irrespective, I took my parents' bank statements, I took my bank
Mm-hmm.
statements, I took my salary slips of
Mm-hmm.
my companies, the previous companies.
Mm-hmm.
I did take those financial documents with me. I believe they are important. Some people I have seen, they also take their agricultural land documents, just in case
Mm-hmm.
the interviewer asks that what happens if the bank stops giving you the loan. So you should be
Okay.
prepared with those kind of answers. That hey,
Right.
if you have an agricultural land or some
Mm-hmm.
property, you can say that my
Some
property is worth
assets,
this and
basically.
this. Yeah.
Mm.
So you can tell them that my property is worth this and this, and if the need arises, I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to sell this property and get my things done. You never tell
Okay.
the interviewer that you're going to come back. Not during your education. That is
Okay.
not what they're interested in. You have to tell them you're going to come back after your degree, but never like in the middle of it.
Okay.
So there's a subtle difference when you have to show that you are going to stay in the US and when you are not.
Mm-hmm.
So the finance part is one of the most important ones. It did
Mm-hmm.
not happen in my case because I had a funding.
Mm.
So even the question did not come up. The next thing, which I mean, a couple of people have been rejected, uh, were on the grounds whether they have a sibling or not already in the US. In my
Mm-hmm.
case, I had cousins, but not a direct sibling.
Okay.
So, but in my cousin's case, his sister was in the US.
Mm.
So and the interview asked this question, right?
Mm.
That your sister is already there. Why should we admit you?
Mm.
He of course mentioned to them that she is on her 3-year extension, the
Mm-hmm.
H1B extension. But I think that time she was on OPT, I guess.
Mm.
But he mentioned that my sister has that 3-year extension. She's gaining that work experience, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to do the same. So he indirectly told that you cannot blame if you are giving the 3-year extensions. She's going to utilize the 3 years extension, and he was a bit direct about it.
Okay.
That I am there because I am passionate and I want to do this. His interview was one of the most trickiest one because of this angle that the sister was already there, yet
Okay.
he came out with an offer letter, with that
Okay.
visa clearance. So there's a lot I got to learn from him about the
Mm-hmm.
fact that if your sibling is already there, what should you do, how you should approach. So you have to be very humble about it,
Mm-hmm.
and tell the interviewer it is not your problem that if your sister is there, if your brother is
Mm-hmm.
there, they are on extension, and that is in the laws. You are not really, you are never showing that you are going to stay in the US.
Okay.
In his case, one thing also worked that the parents were in the government job. So he said, my parents are never going to move to the US
Mm-hmm.
because my mother has a government job. She's always going to be here. So I think multiple factors
Mm-hmm.
worked in his case, but how to convey these multiple factors is also a skill.
Got it.
And you need to be well prepared with these answers, right? You can't just come up with these answers right on the spot. Some you will, but these
Mm-hmm.
kind of tricky questions, if you know, exist in your profile, you need to be well prepared for that. What if the interviewer asks this? What if the interviewer asks that? I would say having a mock interview with somebody would help in that case. If you know that there's a tricky situation in your application. So identify the tricky situations. In my brother's case,
Okay.
it was the sibling part. It was the trickiest. In my case, there was no tricky situation. So maybe I never needed a mock interview either.
Okay.
But in his case, the tricky situation was this. In a couple of other people which I have seen, is that they're not able to communicate so well. So we should,
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend them have multiple mock interviews just to hone your communication skills. That's it. So I
Got
would
it.
say the tricky situation part, and if you're not able to converse so well,
Mm-hmm.
these are the only two categories where you should be even going for mock interviews. Otherwise, you're good to go.
Got it. And what about the managing accommodations? So you are living on campus or yeah, off campus?
No, I'm living off campus. About the yes, coming to the next part, the
Mm-hmm.
accommodation part. I would say there are websites like apartments.com.
Mm-hmm.
There you can search, but the best way again I would say approach a senior.
Okay.
They are what they are going to help you is no website can help you. In my case, I reached out to seniors.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, can you help me with this accommodation? Where should I live? So in my case, something super strange happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
In our case, the closest accommodations where my seniors used to live were all full because in my batch, around 500 people were coming in. There was a
Okay.
whole big pool. People were not able to get accommodations at all. So
Mm-hmm.
we had to look at accommodations which are at a little bit of a far place.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, we also had to consider because Baltimore, everyone is well aware there's a bit of a crime here. So you need to choose your neighborhood very wisely. So in
Mm-hmm.
my case, an additional thing was also there, and then I had not only I had to choose accommodation, but I had to choose a safe neighborhood as well.
Right.
So what we really did was there was a WhatsApp group. So how I came to a WhatsApp group was through Facebook. On
Mm.
Facebook, most of the colleges and most of these organizations they are going to have a group on Facebook most likely. You
Okay.
can connect with people from Facebook, or you can ask a senior who is already studying there that if they are aware about any such WhatsApp group or any such Facebook group,
Mm-hmm.
can you help me join that group? There is
Right.
no structured way to this. I mean, I would say it would have been amazing if there was a structured way to do this about every
Mm-hmm.
college, but there is none. I believe that it should be the university's responsibility somehow to
Right.
help you
Right.
get into that
Yeah.
WhatsApp group. It shouldn't be a third party or somebody, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's how the process is.
Student have to figure out.
Yeah, either people are left clueless and trying to figure out. A lot of
Mm.
people also reach out to me to help, that I've been admitted, we'll see you, can you help me guide, and all of that. So
Mm-hmm.
there is no formal structured way, but it would be
Mm-hmm.
appreciated. We build one as universities, to have these candidates come into common groups, but that's how it is.
In general, how is the life in US? Like how it's different from your UG,
Hmm.
and like how fun it is basically. Because
Hmm.
see, many students love that fun part of going abroad. They love those the image of US basically. So is it true that the image which the Indian student have regarding US is it actually true?
So I'm going to make certain comments, and I don't know how the people are going to take it,
Okay,
but I'm still going to make them. There
sure.
are pros and cons to everything,
Hmm.
right? So let me first begin with the pros, and then I'll
Hmm.
come to the cons.
Okay.
And the cons part is the most okay. Let me just begin with the pros and first and the cons. So the
Hmm.
pros would include, once you graduate. So when you're here in the
Hmm.
US campus, right? I would say you will find an educational difference,
Okay.
right? The professors here would make sure that you are given actionable items, you
Okay.
are being given real world experience, and you will act on those problem statements. So,
Okay.
in terms of education, it's not just rote learning. They are going to give you assignments, they are going to give you projects, and then on top of that, they're going to check whether you have plagiarism or not.
Okay.
It's a big, you don't want to be copying your friend's assignment and putting there. No, they are
It
not
is so
going to take
casual
it.
here.
So
Yeah.
they, and I think many of us don't understand this kind of thing in the first few months of the US,
Right.
but you'll come to understand when you will be flagged for plagiarism.
Okay.
So don't even try to do that.
Hmm.
When I say plagiarism, it's not just only about copying your friend's assignment. It could be
Mm-hmm.
directly using any website's information without citing it.
Got it.
Citations are important in your assignments, anyways. So the assignments, the projects, the real world example experience they're going to give you is very different. Now there are colleges in India who do the same, but they are limited in number.
Okay.
Not every college is going to provide you a world class experience. In my case, I did not feel that difference so much because I had
Mm-hmm.
been exposed to that kind of an education before. But based on my experience talking to other people, they have faced a huge difference. That, you
Okay.
know, the kind of education you're going to the US is a, let's be honest, it's better than India in many cases. The second pro, I would say, when you come out of the college, and right now it is difficult, but it has been there in the past, you are going to get a job which is going to pay all of your loan fees if you took a
Mm-hmm.
loan, and it's
Mm-hmm.
going to provide you a very good living lifestyle. There are different ways, but these are just my personal opinions as to how you should take the job experiences that. And I'm going to come to the lifestyle part. So the lifestyle
Sure.
part is something you can think it is good. You have
Mm-hmm.
120,000 job, and that's almost average, 80,000 to 120,000. You are
Mm-hmm.
going to have this much of money, and your parents are going to be happy. You can purchase a car immediately. You can get to live in a very big house immediately, and all of that comes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you, if material luxury is something you are aiming for, then
Mm-hmm.
US is the place to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? You are going to get all the materials you want. I mean, to have a very comforting lifestyle. You rarely get stuck in a traffic jam, right? And all of that. You can get
Right.
to follow your passion, you can get to see the world around. Now comes the con part. And these are here and there, but these matter to me. The one thing which I have particularly seen, now whatever I talked to you about even in the pros part was what happens when you are a student and what happens when you exit out as a,
Exit.
you know, student.
Yeah.
The cons part I'll tell you, and the list is long. So,
Okay.
so that's why I said that
Yeah.
not many people. I don't know how my statements are going to be taken, but this is the reality. Let's be aware of the reality and still choose to make that decision. But
Mm-hmm.
let's be aware about it. Let's do an informed decision.
Sure. Sure.
When you enter into the US, the first thing is that you're going to feel homesick. You might not have your, you know, natural habitat around you.
Mm-hmm.
The time zones are different. For the first few months, you're going to struggle with that. You might end up being in a fight with your parents. You don't get the time to call us. That's a big thing. You know, if your parents really care
Right.
about you and they
Right.
want to have a conversation with you because of the time difference, it's neither your problem nor their problem.
Right.
It's the time difference that is. You might end up losing the touch with your previous friends. Again, the time
Right.
difference part. It's a natural thing. Nobody can control that.
Yes.
The third thing, if you are somebody who is not like me and who doesn't know how to cook, I can cook very well. So if you're somebody who cannot cook, that's going to be a difficult task. In the US, you don't have a buy system, right? You
Right.
cannot call a maid, you cannot have a buy who's going to cook food for you. Now I have realized after so much of time that in India that's a privilege and that's a
Privilege.
luxury to.
Yeah.
In the US, you
Right.
don't have that. Even if you're earning $500,000, you still cannot afford a buy,
Okay.
or you cannot afford to have a house help,
Mm-hmm.
right? In the US, you have to do everything on your own. Nobody is going to be doing that for you. That could make you feel frustrated. That could make you feel very lonely.
Mm-hmm.
That could that could be just an overwhelming emotion running through your entire system.
Right.
So homesick it is. Then if you don't know how to cook, that's going to be a problem. However, if you learn, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't know how to cook, you are going to learn. The third thing I would say, as a student, you will have to adjust with roommates. And if somebody who has been in the industry and doesn't have that idea of sharing spaces with each other is going to have a
Mm-hmm.
trouble, because living with people, and that to 4 to 5 people in your house,
Yes.
it can be tricky. And you take your time to get adjusted to people.
Right.
As a student, these are some of the things. Then I would say, um, I don't even know if I want to make the statement, but the quality of food, and
Mm.
I'm going to comment on it big time. See,
Okay.
in the US, there are two categories and the two qualities of food. You can get a pizza, you can get a burger under $5, under $7, but
Mm-hmm.
is it really healthy for you as a
Right.
student? No. And
No.
I have personally myself got into some serious health issues because of that. See, if you don't have time to cook, you're naturally going to have a pizza, a burger, or a fry.
Right.
Right? You might just go ahead and get some chip packet and just eat it. And sometimes you're so busy that you can't even cook. You can't even
Right.
purchase with just empty stomach.
Right.
Right? So me personally, I have been to the extent where I've gained a lot of weight,
Mm.
and I am on borderline. Like my insulin is on borderline
Okay.
because of the sugar content and all of that. Now, when somebody can say it's not the government's fault, it's your fault that you're not able to do that. But the life as a student is such that it is going to make you do that.
Right.
So I would say, and it's also because when students come here, they're on a loans, many of them.
Mm.
In fact,
Right.
most of the population, they
Most
want
of
to
them.
save money.
Yeah. Right.
There is a concept in the US which says free food.
Mm.
And a lot of universities do free food. Sometimes it's just cola, it's chip, it's donuts, it's cookies. But those options are really not that healthy. One of my friend has gone into serious tuberculosis, and he has
Mm.
went to India after that because he had so much of cola, because
Mm.
he was lured by the fact that it was free. Nobody discusses about the repercussions of that. But it's time we need to discuss these things. Health is
Right.
important, even as a
Yes.
student. So
For everyone.
he's not one of the other cases I received, that after the person came to the US, she has developed cancer. So I know these can be discouraging facts, but that's what the US environment as a student does that to you, right?
Okay.
Nobody is talking about that. People say you hustle, and
Mm.
I know even if you were in India, you could develop those things,
Yes.
but
Yes.
I haven't really seen any of my undergrad friend or any of my undergrad colleague or my work colleague going through
Mm.
such a serious thing just like that. The cost of purchasing anything in the US is high. Even if you were to, and so as a student, the milk in the US, I'm going to quote some facts. The
Mm.
cheapest milk in the US which you can get is approximately around, for a gallon, it's around less than $3. But is
Okay.
it the best quality milk? No, the best quality milk, which you can easily get in India for, let's say, 70 rupees per liter, and that to
Right.
fresh cow milk, if you can get
Yes.
that. In the US, that's going to cost you around $20, and no student is going to pay
Mm.
$20. They are naturally going to
Right.
go for the cheapest option. Now, US does provide you with a variety of options, but the really good, organic, and the healthy ones cost you a lot. And I've realized it in a long, in my experience, in a long journey. And I'm quoting these food experiences. They are not the ideal ones for a student,
Mm.
right?
Right.
So you can say not many people suffer from that, but internally,
Mm.
all of my friends have suffered from one thing or the other. My entire group has suffered from one thing or the other, even though I cook at home. So the quality of food, US does provide a good quality food, but that comes at a cost.
That comes at a cost.
In
Right.
India, you can still go to that sabzi wala bhaiya and get
Mm-hmm.
a 12 bananas for 30 rupees.
Right.
or you easily have access to that fresh quality food. And as I was saying, that the concept of a help or a buy, they'll just cook you good homemade food,
Yes.
right? That concept doesn't exist anymore here. That's a big problem in the US, because if your health is not good. Mhm.
Hmm.
Sorry, my dear friend. That's the most important thing you should be
Yes, yes. Like,
focusing on.
yeah, like both pros and cons, knowing those are really important. Then
So the
only one
food
can
part,
take decision.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. The food part is has troubled a lot of people in the US,
Hmm.
especially as a student. Now, I don't say that it's a 2 year journey. You would be
Right.
lucky if you make out of those 2 years without any disease, right? But most of them will end up having some disease or another internally affecting their body. After 2 years, you have that kind of money to, have a very good life. You can afford a $20 milk, right? You can afford to spend $1,000 on grocery.
Hmm.
That's okay. But it's a 2 year journey, and you would be lucky enough to make out of that those 2 years without anything happening to your body. So that is one of the major cons I see as a student. After that, after you stop being a student, I would say you'll miss your family a lot.
Hmm.
You are always going to be away from those personal relations. If something happens, some wedding is going to take place, and God forbid, if somebody in your family die, you're not going to be reaching them out to you quickly as you could have done in India.
Right.
So that always exists. So the pros is that yes, you are going to have a very good financial life, but the con includes compromising on your health as a student, at least,
Hmm.
then having missing those family relations, personal bondings.
Although we missed a part about GRE examination preparation and all those things, maybe we can
Mhm.
cover it next time if you are available.
Sure. About the GRE examination, I would say I think I did cover it a bit, though it wasn't very
Yes, yes,
focused.
yes, yes, yes.
So I think okay. Let me just take 5 minutes to do a very
Sure, sure,
focused discussion on that.
sure.
So in my case, and this has worked for me, there are different ways, but I'm going to share what worked for me.
Okay.
And I think this would be more apt to somebody who is in the industry and is looking forward to balance their approaches,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still equally relevant to somebody who is not in the industry and who is in the college. Even they
Okay.
need to balance it, right? Because we are never taking a break just for the GRE. We are doing
Right,
something on the
right,
side.
right.
We need to have a balanced approach. I would say the first thing you can do is that straightforward understand your timetable and how you work on each individual day.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you have a calendar and a proper calendar, like time by time calendar. You
Mm-hmm.
know that your 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. is busy, and you cannot afford to give that time to GRE, TOEFL, or the US preparations, even though that's a very big part.
Right.
So make sure first you are very well aware about your timeline commitments. Once you know that, you find gaps where you can commit time for the preparation. So first, figuring out your timelines are important. Once you have done that part, now I would say, because we Indians mostly, and it's a very general statement. There could be exceptional cases.
Mm-hmm.
We Indians are mostly very good at mathematics,
Right.
but we really struggle at the verbal part of it.
Yes.
So very early on, you can start following. This is what I did. I made flashcards
Mm-hmm.
and I wrote the word down and the meaning behind it, and then the sentence in which it can be used.
Okay.
So I had that bunch of 1,000 or 1,500 flashcards of those words. I would take out every day until 6 months. So, and in a week, I would say one day I will revise, I will just learn, let's say, 20 words. The next
Mm-hmm.
day, I'm going to revise it and learn 10 words. Then the next day, I'm going to learn 20 words. And the third day, I'm going to combine all of them. And this is very strange and funny. How I
Mm-hmm.
used to learn is, there is one more thing which you should do, is to figure out at least one person who equally wants to see you successful. right?
Okay.
And who can dedicate that time with you to help you prepare your journey. In my case, one of my friend was also preparing for GRE, so we became
Mhm.
each other's successful, that successful figure.
Got
I
it.
would dictate. He would ask me some words, and I'm going to dictate this example and meaning behind it,
Mhm.
where I can use it, and I would do the same for him. So it was a very pleasant exchange
Right.
that helped both of us keep motivated. Someday I would do it with my brother, but mostly with my friend. Now, that really helped me to grasp all of those vocabularies
Mhm.
along with the meanings, along with the sentences where I can use it. And I remember I used for them. Where did I even get those words? Um, I think okay, now that is coming up. I remember using two books. One was the Manhattan 5 LB book, and the another one was the Magoosh GRE book. Now where
Okay.
and then there was this third resource which I used to get to those vocabulary parts. It was somebody from YouTube who just
Mhm.
happened to upload a sheet, and I just downloaded his sheet. But that came very later. By
Okay.
that time, I was already done with around 1500 words. So from Manhattan 5 LB book and from Magoosh GRE books, you can pick the choice of your words, right? So I did
Mhm.
that practice for a long time, for around 6 months. I would wake up every day in the morning and I would spend 1 to 1.5 hours just on vocabulary words, right?
Okay.
After that, now you should also understand the kind of pattern which GRE is having. So you will have
Mhm.
single fill in the blank sentences. You will have double. You will have
Right.
triple sentence. Then you will also have comprehension, that there's an essay and you have to comment, uh, and you have to answer the questions asked.
Mhm.
So you need to start practicing them as well, one by one. I started my first preparation 2 months after I did words, because when I first attempted those fill in the blanks, I struggled. I couldn't understand the words.
Mhm.
So I realized that I have to first learn the meaning of the words. So I first did that practice. Now I could attempt these blanks and fill in the blanks, one sentence, two sentence, three sentence, in so much of with so much of better clarity, because now I could know the meaning of these words. So I mean that's going to be a long discussion as to how I really prepared. Oh, but that's the gist of it,
Okay.
that you need to have a good grasp on the vocabulary part. Then you should be able to solve exercises. And I would say Manhattan, I mean 5 LB book is a good enough practice set. It's a very
Okay.
big book and it gives you tons of examples. You can break them down in whichever manner suits you the most. I wouldn't say you have to complete the entire book. It's a good to have, but if you are able to still
Mhm.
cover 50% of that book, you are still good to give mock tests.
Okay.
So in my case, I did cover 60 to 70% of that book. I did attempt all of those exercises. We can go in detail. What are those exercises? What do they mean? How to attempt them? Maybe later on in some other
Yes.
call.
Yes. Sure.
But yeah, that's the gist. That the
Mhm.
vocabulary part has to be figured out. The second thing you need to do is to practice, practice, and practice. Practice those single one sentence, two sentences, three sentences, the reading comprehension part. You need to practice all four of them for the verbal part, right? And then for the maths part, it's the same. The maths, I would say, we most of these GRE givers are engineers. They know
Mhm.
this kind of basic maths. So in my case, I never studied for maths specifically, but what I did,
Mhm.
I just so here is the thing: you need to first identify where your weak areas are. In
Mhm.
my case, I found them in the vocabulary understanding.
Mhm.
So I gave more time to the vocabulary understanding, right? Then in if when I was approaching the maths part of the GRE exam, I again started with a couple of exercises, and I ended up understanding where my weak parts were. So my weak parts were mostly at the statistics and
Mhm.
understanding, the formulas, median, mode, variance, and all. I realized that I don't remember or recall these formulas. So what I did was, once I've done my analysis and understood where my weak topics are, I would go ahead and just understand, how to solve them. And I think in the Manhattan 5 LB book, you'll also get solutions. So you can even refer to
Mhm.
the solution. But that's all very basic maths. You might have forgotten it now, but it's not like you have never studied it.
Right.
So I did this exercise in both cases. First, I identified where my weak areas are. Even I tried to, I attempted at solving you know, verbal questions as well, but I
Hmm.
struggled solving them because I was struggling to understand the meaning of the vocabulary. So I went ahead and practiced on that. In the maths, same way I understood where my weak areas are. And I
Hmm.
went ahead and took at least a week to recall all of my weak areas. Then I was easily able to solve it. Now, the practice is the first part. But as you know, that all of these exams are timed exams. You
Right.
don't have the whole day to solve something. So you should be also able to solve these things very efficiently, right? So the next part so the first part was identify your weak areas by giving some mock tests or
Hmm.
attempt to solve some questions which relate to the pattern.
Hmm.
Once you've identified, practice about them, practice, solve more questions, and
Hmm.
then come back. How to solve each weakness, how to solve each of your weak areas is a long discussion, so I'm going to skip
Right.
it for now.
Hmm.
So one, identify weakness, practice. The third part is give mock tests. When you feel that
Hmm.
you're prepared now, you have to give at least 6 to 8 mock tests.
Okay.
And those mock tests are something. So I for those mock tests, there are two things. One is some of the mock tests are given in the GRE official prep book by ETS.
Hmm.
You'll find a couple of mock tests there. Couple of mock tests are already provided in the Manhattan book.
Okay.
You can also attempt some of the mock tests there. Or the third thing, you can also purchase a service which will give you mock tests. I didn't
Okay.
purchase a service, but you can do that. You can purchase a service to give mock tests. That's completely up to you. It's up to you how much
Hmm.
surety you want to get before attempting the real exam,
Right.
right? So I would say in the mock test, in the first 2 to 3 mock tests, you're going to struggle like anything. That's okay
Hmm.
to do that. Now once you have given the mock test, you have to also understand, you put a timer, and now you have to understand uh, where you are going wrong, and see if you need one more month to attempt those identify those areas of weakness in your mock test. Maybe it's a timing issue or something else. I don't know what your weakness comes out to be.
Right.
So go ahead, now now do more timers and sit with an alarm clock or sit with a
Hmm.
clock and attempt. That is very important
Hmm.
to be in an environment uh, with the timers and the clocks. So you should be able to keep a tab on each section, that I'm solving 5 questions in, let's say, 5 minutes. So that's the strategy you have to make for yourself. If you're very good at maths, maybe you can devote very less time for maths and more time for verbal. If you struggle with the maths part and not the verbal, more time. So that is a very individualized strategy you have to make. There is no one common strategy for anybody. In my case,
Right.
I dedicated a little less time to the maths and a more time to the verbal section. In maths also, I dedicated more time to the sections which are my weak areas and less time to the sections which are my strong zone. Same goes for verbal as well. So I would say, when you're scrolling that paper, right, you know
Hmm.
that these are the questions which you can solve easily and quickly. So I would just solve them quickly.
Got it.
I would say attempting the GRE can have some common templates, but it's more an individualized thing. Where you struggle the most, practice those areas the most.
Right. Right. Maybe we can have a meet one more time regarding detailed strategy which you had, because like for me, I have given JE, so during my examination, I had a detailed strategy on each of every PCM regarding what are the subtopics in that, which to attempt first, which to attempt later, all those things. Maybe you can just go through it. In the next session, we can have that completely GRE. And did you give English proficiency test as well?
I
While
gave
test?
TOEFL. Yes,
Yeah.
I
So
gave TOEFL.
TOEFL. Okay. So we can have a session for it because I guess here verbal and that TOEFL there may be a similarity in preparation for both of them as well, right? So maybe that would be more helpful. The exam focused part two of this complete session. Yeah.
Right, Rohan.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, this session wouldn't do justice to that.
Right, right, right. So based on your uh, description itself, I got it. Yeah, we need a different whole session to just uh, go through each and every exam about the preparations.
Right.
Yeah. I guess then that's it from my side. It was really deep, like I did not know like how 2 hours went by, and we discussed a lot of things during this. Uh, how was your experience for this?
So, Rohan, I would say first of all, again, thanks for
Mhm.
taking this call and doing this. I'm sure it's going to really give people some more insights. It was amazing to me. I got to relive my entire journey and you know why I came to the US, what motivated me, and where I am. And I feel like I have contributed something back. As I was mentioning
As
about the
mentioned,
scholarship,
yeah,
right? I
right,
have contributed something back.
right,
So it was an amazing experience for me. You were an amazing host who asked me the right kind of questions and helped me keep on track if I digressed.
yeah. Thank you for that. It was my first experience as well. It was good.
Mhm.
Like you are such a good public speaker, and it really showed like how good you are in describing each and every point, keeping in mind how guy who is listening to it would receive it. So yeah, thanks for that.
Thanks for giving me that feedback, Rohan.
Yeah,
So, that wraps up Nancy's incredible journey of studying abroad. I have covered all the crucial steps you need to know if you're considering a similar path. So, if you're eager to embark on your own adventure and follow in her footsteps, I invite you to join in our community. Whether you have questions, doubts, or simply want to share your thoughts, our comment section is always open for you. Let me know what else you'd like to hear in the next podcast to address your concerns. I will catch you in the next episode. Signing off, yours truly, Rohan.